Morning folks, just gonna get out for a quick ride on the 66 in the Gatineau Park. I just set the site up as a full 29er, so this is gonna be like a real-time first impressions ride of this bike as a 29er, doing some more trail XC kind of stuff, but should get up to Camp Fortune tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, let's get into it. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, the 5th gen Norco Sight, the newest one that just came out, comes with swappable linkage. Sorry, it doesn't come with, but you can purchase linkage directly from Norco to swap your bike between a 27.5 inch back wheel and a 29 inch back wheel, which is pretty darn sweet. Geometry doesn't change a whole ton. I haven't totally looked into that just because I want sort of like a blind, unadulterated first impression of the bike. I don't want to have any sort of like preconceived notions of how the bike's going to behave as a 29er. But what I can say is that as a mullet or a mixed wheel bike, this thing absolutely trucks and it feels fantastic. And I can only imagine how fast it's going to be with the rollover of a 29 inch wheel in both the front and back, especially in the rougher stuff. Like I said, at Camp Fortune, it's going to probably be just an absolute weapon. So yeah, hopefully I'll get up there in the next few days to give that a go. It's just kicking things off in the prison trails. Right away too, I can feel like I'm pedaling the bike. It does roll quite a bit faster, definitely speedier. What I'm really curious about is the cornering, because I've been riding a mullet bike for almost 2 years now, riding the Bronson last year, and then this bike. And I gotta say, this bike and the Bronson, totally different animals. Bronson definitely leans towards the more jibby side of the spectrum. This bike has a lot more stability. You sit a lot deeper in the bike, which is what I dig. And that's why I've always gotten along with Norcos. Yeah. You know, just having that nice feeling of being in the bike between the wheels and not perched on top of it. It's really confidence inspiring for me. So another thing I want to watch out for is to see if changing to a full 29 inch wheel cuts down on the playfulness of this bike a little, which right now I'm saying probably not so much. But yeah, mullets are always touted as the bike for people who like to jump and jib and pop. However, I feel like I can do kind of the same thing with both 29er and 27.5, so in the back at least. I don't notice too many drawbacks. It's all about what you prefer. There's pros and cons to both. Also got to say the linkage swapping process, definitely not the easiest, just because each pivot point has washers between the linkage and the bearings, and they just fall out, and it's really finicky to put them back in. So be mindful of that if this is something you're looking into doing. It's definitely good to have the options, but this isn't something I would do on like a ride to ride basis. It's like, no, I'm gonna keep this as a 29er for a month. You know, maybe I go ride some bike park laps somewhere. I'll switch it back to 27.5 mullet in the back. But yeah, definitely some food for thought. Wheelie's okay, which is sick. Woo! It's one thing I do like about a mixed wheel bike is I kind of like the small wheel out back for climbing, just because it spins up quicker. It's kind of easier to scoot around these like tech sections. And because this bike's a high pivot, you just have oodles of grip anyways. So you're not really experiencing those hang-ups as much, at least, as you would with like a 4-bar. All right, let's get into some choppy downhill. Oh yeah. So the bike definitely still pops. And I definitely feel that rollover of the 29, which is nice. It corners pretty well too. Crazy. Another fun thing too is a lot of bikes offer like headset cups, chain stay length adjustment, whereas Norco's just offering a rear wheel. Go for it. Which is awesome. Cheers, have a good one. Yeah, so Norco is confident in their geometry, so much so that they're like, yeah, you could change your wheel, and but it's gonna stay kind of the same. And you know, I tell everybody that the Gen 4 Sight came out in 2020 was my favorite bike, hands down. And this is a great successor to that bike, I think. They addressed a lot of the stuff that needed to get addressed. Mainly stuff for adjustability, rider preference, but I also really like what they did with the geometry, because I definitely feel like this sort of like, I almost want to call it like a medium large. The size 3 is just phenomenal. Big enough so that you get a lot of stability, but not so big that you have a hard time moving it around and jumping and popping and cornering. Phew! Yeah. I know I'm putting out a full-on review on this bike, but I gotta keep mentioning how good the pedaling is. Like, even with the idler, you know, it's just, it sits up in its travel nicely. You're not wallowing or bobbing. There's a good amount of support in the mid-stroke. It's really something else. It's really fun. And honestly, those people complain about idler noise, I'd argue they're just not having as much fun. So they have to focus on the negative aspects of their bikes. This trail is actually pretty good for testing, you know, how your suspension's working. It's a bit of everything. There's a lot of jank. Oh yeah, there's a butt buzz. But just a little light caress. And yeah, right away, you can feel that back wheel just absolutely rolling over everything. Not to say that hang-ups were super apparent with the 27.5 inch rear wheel, but when you ride them back to back like I'm doing, it's definitely noticeable. And I've been running the 27.5 wheel since I got this bike 4 months ago. So all right, here the carnage begins. It's just unrelenting jank. Let's see how the Sight does. Definitely maneuverable. Ooh. Good morning. Oh, the ride around's gone, but they fixed the main line. Okay. Getting into it. Yeah, this trail's hilarious. It's just so rocky. You can cut out a bit of it though, if you just jump it. I'm gonna go wide here, not too wide. But yeah, definite difference in the overall truckability, if I could say that, of the bike. It's really just making easy work of all of this jank. which is pretty cool. Just gobbling it up. Also, want to plug Cushcore, because that always helps in these scenarios. Oh my God, my arms. That was cool. Probably didn't look as cool as it felt though. Also, thank you very much, Norco, for sending me this link to try out. Thank you, Energy Enterprises, for getting me 29-inch rear wheel. And I've obviously wrapped it in some Cushcore and Maxxis tires. If you're looking to pick up Norco bikes, Maxxis tires, Hope wheels, Cushcore, you can head on over to Full Cycle. I have links to all my partners down below. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys.